Hello, beautiful people. It's Ashley from 21st Yoga in Salt Lake City. Today I'm teaching a prenatal class. It'll be for all trimesters and all levels. So you'll need two blocks if you have them, or you could use a stack of books or a really big book or a stool. And if you would like a little bit of extra padding, depending on where you are practicing for your knees, when we work on our knees on the floor, a blanket might help. And then if you would like a bolster for shavasana, either a bolster or a cushion or anything to help with the alignment between the knees and the ankles. But we will get started just in a comfortable seat. So if that looks like a cross-legged position for you, your legs can also be stretched out in front of you, or you can even come onto your knees in more of a hero's pose like this. So just finding your comfortable seat. And beginning to close your eyes as we move inward. Today I want to invite you to bring one hand to your heart, using this connection to connect deeper in the body today. And just notice, maybe you can feel your heart beating, noticing the breath, noticing the thoughts and the feeling of your body, noticing the connection of the hand on the heart, that feeling. Also noticing the sit bones against the earth. And starting to take deeper inhalations and exhalations. Filling up completely with breath. Feeling that expansion in all directions on the inhale. You might notice that as baby gets bigger, it's getting harder to take those deep inhalations. And just taking as deep of a breath as you can. Letting the thoughts come to each breath, following each breath from the very beginning of the inhale to the very end of the exhale. And really starting to take this breath off of autopilot. So we move through our days without really noticing. So taking this time to focus on the breath, to be your breath. And noticing how the right side of the rib cage moves and expands away from the left side. And then even the front of your body begins to expand away from the back of your body. And then on the exhale, everything begins to hug back into one another, front to back and left to right. Taking just a few more breaths here. Maybe noticing the bones in your body, noticing the weight of them. Maybe noticing all the soft tissue, hugging those bones and keeping them in place. Taking one more big inhale and exhale. And keeping this strong, focused breath. And you can open your eyes and begin to lift your arms around and up toward the ceiling, keeping the shoulders down and away from the ears. And exhale, hands together in front of your heart center. Again, inhaling to reach arms around and up, taking the entire breath to move. And exhale, hands together in front of your heart. This time, interlace your fingers and then turn the palms out in front of you, feeling the shoulders broaden on the back, and lifting the arms or the palms up toward the ceiling, feeling that nice stretch on both sides of the body. Now take a few breaths here to move in any way that might feel good. You can take it over onto each side, or maybe you take some circles around, maybe both. Any way you move is perfect. You can really round through your spine, pressing the palms forward and coming back. Just taking a little bit of movement into the body today. And then unwinding the fingers and allowing your hands to come back down to your lap or wherever they are comfortable. And we'll start to bring some movement into our neck as well. So with that deep breath on the inhale, filling up with breath. Exhale to turn your gaze over to the right. And then inhale to come back to center. And turning the gaze over to the left, over the left shoulder. Inhale to come back to center, and do that a couple more times with your own perfect breath pace. Inviting this moving meditation into our practice. And as you come back to center this next time, allowing the chin to come down to the chest and maybe rolling the left ear over to the left shoulder and coming back down to the chest and moving the right ear to the right shoulder. And taking a couple more from moving from side to side. And we're just focusing this movement on the front of the body and with the chin down. We'll take it up in just a second, taking one more visit to each side and noticing here. So moving with breath and noticing the body. And as you come back to center this time, we're going to take it all the way around. So go to the side that you would be moving to. And without just letting your head dump back, think about lifting up and finding length through the chin. So lifting the neck up and coming back in whatever direction. And we'll switch the direction. So whatever movement you took, do the opposite. And again, letting the chin lift up, finding a little bit of length through the front of the neck, and then around the other shoulder. And taking the chin up, lifting it so the neck stacks on top of the rest of the spine. And with your inhale, begin to lift your arms up, finding length on both sides of the body. And with your exhale, let your left hand come down to the earth and begin to hinge over. So keeping the rib cage on the back of the body, we're not thrusting the bottom of the ribs forward. Begin to breathe into this right side. Now you can take this as deep as you would like. You find depth by moving that left hand either farther away from you or closer into you. But keep in mind that both sit bones are weighted evenly against the earth or a prop if you're sitting up on one. Taking a deep breath to expand the lungs in between the ribs. And with your next inhale, using the side obliques to come back up to center, both hands reach up, and exhale the right hand down to the earth and hinging over toward the right side. Again, paying attention to your rib cage and your sit bones, and think about breathing more space on the left side, especially in between the left rib and the left hip. There's a small micro bend in the right elbow, and your right hand is pressing against the earth to give you a little bit more lift, a little bit more length on the left side. Taking one more expansive breath here. And inhaling to come back up to a seat. Both hands reach up and exhale hands into your heart center. Now, if you are up on a prop, take that out from under you. And find a seat with your fingertips pointed towards you, but behind you. And we don't want to sit back on our tailbone, sitting up onto the sit bones. The feet are a little bit wider than hip distance apart. And find a nice squeeze of the shoulder blades. And then start to take your knees over to one side and then the other. And you can go as deep in this pose, in this windshield wiper pose, as feels good for you. So your knees don't have to move down to the floor. It is a little bit of a twist, so if that doesn't feel good for you and baby, just don't go quite as deep. So take one more visit to each side, starting to move into the hips. And then as you come back up to center, finding again yourself on your sit bones, sitting up with a long spine. And this time take the legs just a little bit wider, and we're gonna break down this movement a little bit so we're not putting our entire body and movement into that twist. So if you paid attention this last time, if you can see this, my whole body moves from side to side. So we want to just make this twist into the hips. So you can take one knee toward the other, taking the movement out from the body, or from the torso rather, and making that movement in the hips. So keep doing that. I'm gonna check something really quick. All right, so one more to each side, just really bringing that movement into the hips and the hip sockets. And then coming back up to center with your fingertips pointing toward you. Squeeze the shoulder blades. Feet are hip distance apart. And then press into the feet and lift the hips up into a reverse table. So keep the hips lifted on the same plane. Shoulders are squeezing on the back of the body to find a nice stretch on the front of the body. And then your head and your neck can be whatever feels good. So for me, it doesn't really feel good to let my neck go. Just keeping it, the chin tucked toward the chest. Take one more big breath here. And then exhale to slowly lower the hips down to the earth. And cross your legs. Start to move forward onto your hands and your knees. And we're gonna take a nice forearm or wrist stretch here. So in pregnancy, it's totally normal to have wrist pain, and it's just due to all of the hormones moving through the body. So the good news is that after baby, all of that should go away, but it's not very comfortable right now. So with your back of your forearms onto the earth, about shoulder distance apart, if you can see this, I'll scoot back a little bit. Forearms come to the earth and press the back of the wrists toward the earth. And then press all 10 fingernails to the earth, even the thumb. So the thumb is probably the hardest one. So really trying to press the thumbnail down to the earth. Keep pressing the wrist toward the earth. And if it feels awkward, then you're doing it right. So it's just a very odd stretch, but it feels so good. So let's take 2 more deep breaths here. Really allowing the breath to fill up your body, especially baby. Letting the belly be soft. Keep pressing forearms down to the mat. Fingernails press down into the mat, thumb presses down into the mat. Take 1 more deep breath here. All right, come back up. It feels so nice after it's done. So shake out your hands, maybe roll your wrists around. And then from that tabletop position in a neutral spine with your toes tucked under to give the legs and the body a little bit more stability. So press the toes into the earth. Knees are directly underneath your hips. Wrists are right underneath your shoulders. There's a small micro bend in the elbows. And then take all of the weight into your fingertips to take pressure off of your wrists. So from this neutral spine tabletop position, with your inhale, lift your tailbone up toward the ceiling. And exhale to round the tailbone underneath. A modification of cat and cow. So we are just taking the movement into the hips. Inhale to lift the tailbone up. And exhale to curl the tailbone toward the heels. Take a few more of these with your own breath, letting the breath lead the movement. And as you finish up your next breath, there's no rush. Begin to make this into whatever pose your body is calling for. So maybe that's really rounding the spine in more of a traditional cat position. Maybe it's taking a shoulder to a hip, getting an extra side body stretch. Taking a few breaths. It could even look like sitting back into a child's pose or into a puppy pose. One more breath. And coming back to that neutral spine. I want you to take your brain into your shoulders here. And I want you to start to make circles with the shoulders without letting or bending the elbows to create the movement. And it's kind of tricky and kind of hard, but we're just doing a little bit of yoga for the brain, just taking this new awareness into the shoulders. So noticing these circles. Maybe you take one side and then the other. And see now if you can reverse it. So whatever direction you took, it's probably going to be harder to do it in the opposite direction, but really trying to feel on the back with your shoulders, this movement. So that's the yoga in this pose. And then beginning to come back to that neutral spine. And I always have you tuck your toes to find more stability. This time I want you to take the lace side of your shoes down to the earth. So untucking the toes. And stretch your right leg back behind you. And with your exhale, slowly slide the right toes underneath you. So we're starting to activate the core a little bit. And as you get to that place where you can't move any further, pause there, feel the end of the exhale, and inhale to straighten the leg back out behind you, sliding the toes along. So this movement is very slow and subtle. Exhale again to slowly slide the right foot underneath you. And we don't want to dump the weight into one hip, and we don't want the movement coming from the hip. So just moving the legs and activating the core. Again, inhale to stretch the leg back behind you. And then exhale to bring the knee underneath you. Depending how far along in your pregnancy might determine how far that knee goes underneath you. And then inhale to stretch the leg back behind you. And once you get to the full extension, tuck your right toe. Toe stays on the earth and press through the right heel. So keep the weight into the fingertips. Keep pressing through the back of the heel. Feel the extension through the entire body. So you can feel that length from the heel all the way to the crown of the head. Take one more in-breath here. And with your next exhale, sweep that right leg out to the side of the mat. And then bring it back in toward the left foot. So we'll do that 2 more times. Find the extension and exhale to sweep the leg out to the right side, letting the toes move along the floor, and then coming back, straight back behind you. Now the movement is just in the right side of the hip. There's no dumping all the weight into the left side. Exhale to sweep it out to the side, and then coming back behind and bringing the knee in to meet the left. Now sit back onto your heels, and we'll do that forearm stretch again. We'll add another little element to it. So again, find the back of your forearms against the earth, shoulder distance apart. Press the wrists down to the earth. Press all 8 of the fingernails down to the earth, and then your thumbs. So keep pressing. And from here, you can start to move your hips maybe from side to side, noticing how that changes the stretch. Keep pressing the back of the forearms and the wrists down, keeping the thumbs pressing against the earth. Couple more breaths moving from side to side. And notice where your body might be trying to avoid this. My thumbs keep trying to lift off of the ground. My breath is starting to shorten. So if you are finding those same things in your own body, begin to deepen the breath. Moving that breath all the way down into baby. Take one more breath. Keep pressing the fingertips or the back of the nails, the wrists, the forearms down to the earth. And then coming back up, shake that out. Maybe roll the wrists around. Notice if that felt a little bit better or different than the first time. And then we'll come to the other side doing those same hip exercises. So with your feet, the lay side of your feet down toward the earth, this time we're moving to the left side. So with your inhale, or with your exhale, inhale, start to stretch your left leg back behind you, lay side of your toes down. And then exhale to slowly drag or slide the foot back in. And again, one more, and extend on the inhale, slowly moving. Hips and shoulders are square to the earth. And exhale to slide the left leg in, going as far as baby allows. And last time, inhaling to stretch that leg back, keeping the weight in the fingertips to take pressure off of the wrists. And exhale to slowly move the knee underneath you, activating the core. And extend again on the inhale. And then tuck the toes, press the toes into the earth, and press the heel to the space behind you. Feel the extension of the torso. So the crown of the head is pulling you forward. The heel is pulling you back. And then breathe the length of the body here. One more breath. Keeping the toes tucked, begin to slide the leg out to the side of the room. So this time the left foot moves to the left and then coming back behind you. So you can see that here. With your exhale, moving the leg out to the side. And again, check in with that right hip. So we don't want to be dumping into one hip. And then take that lateral movement in one more. And then as you come back to your hands and your knees, taking the hips over to one side and then sweeping them over the heels and taking them to the other side, making these big hip circles. And then switch directions. If it feels good to just pause on one side, taking an extra breath or two there, please feel free to do that. When you feel balanced on both sides, beginning to come back to your hands and your knees. And one more time, that wrist stretch. So take the back of the forearms down to the earth, pressing the back of the wrist to the earth, all of the nails from your fingers, even the thumbs, as much as you can, pressing it to the earth. And then this time, what we're gonna do is sit the hips back or start to move the hips back. Keep pressing the wrists and the forearms down to the earth, all of the fingernails, and then coming back up. And do that a couple more times. So we're just moving the hips forward and backward. Where do you feel this stretch? And now breathe to it. Keep pressing the wrists and the forearms down, deepen the breath. And one more time, the hips move back. And then come back to center, shaking out the hands and the wrists, maybe rolling those wrists or pressing the fingertips back. All right, now grab your blocks or your books if you have them, whatever you're using to bring the earth a little bit closer to you, and standing them up on their highest setting out in front of you, take your right foot forward. We want the right ankle underneath the right knee, and I have my left set of toes tucked behind me, so that just helps with the stability, but we want that left knee right underneath the left hip. Now press really firmly down through the right foot to the earth, like it's super glued to the earth. And then shift, energetically shifting the right heel back. So you can feel that kick on as like your femur bone or your thigh bone is moving into the hip. And hands come onto the hip. And start to shift your hips forward, stopping when you feel like the hips are gonna rotate forward. We just want a neutral hip alignment. So shifting forward a bit and then coming back. Keep pressing into that right foot and feeling that heel slide back energetically. And we'll do that one more time, shifting the hips forward. And then coming back And this time, release your hands from your hips. And we're gonna inhale, and as we move forward, we're gonna lift the hands up. So keep that connection of the foot against the earth and start to slide the hips forward as the arms reach up. And then coming back, and the hands come down. One more time of those. Press your foot in, slide the heel back, start to move the hips forward. It's a very subtle movement. The arms reach up and coming back down. And again, pressing into the right foot, sliding the heel back. This time, arms reach up as the hips move forward. And interlace your fingers and press the palms up toward the ceiling. Notice the shoulders, and we're holding that position forward slightly. So keep pressing the foot down to the earth and moving the heel back energetically. You should feel this in your legs. Notice the rib cage, and if you're thrusting it forward, bring the rib cage onto the back of the body. Move a little bit deeper in this pose by reaching the hands a little bit higher to the ceiling. And then maybe move from side to side. Take a couple of deep breaths here. And then as you find balance in the body, moving side to side, you can unwind or unlace your fingers. Bring your hands back down to the blocks. Shift them back as you shift your hips back over the left heel. Blocks or whatever you're using come directly underneath your shoulders. The right heel presses into the earth with the toes pointed up. And then that same kind of feeling of bringing the leg into the hip, that's what we're gonna do. So we wanna feel like the right thigh is moving into the hip, and it's also this slight adjustment of the right hip moving back. That should deepen the pose or the stretch on the back of the leg a little bit. So deepen your breath to match that sensation. There is a slight bend in that right knee. We don't want to hyperextend. Try to keep your spine tall, shoulders released. Take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth. Soften through your forehead and your jaw. Take one more big breath. And then start to bring a bend back into your right knee. And bringing the right knee back to meet the left. And we'll move to the left side now. So left foot moves forward. This time, the right set of toes is tucked. And I can move to a side view here. So right set of toes is tucked. The right knee is right underneath the right hip. The left foot is forward with the ankle right underneath the left knee. And then the hands come onto the hips. Press your left foot into the earth. Feel that sliding back sensation. And then move the hips slightly forward so that you can feel before your hips start to tilt forward or tilt under. And then coming back up, find that connection to the earth with the left foot, sliding that heel back energetically, feeling the legs turn on, and then start to move the hips forward. And then bring it back. This time we'll add the arms. So engage the legs, start to shift the hips, and lift the arms up. Again, coming back as the arms sweep down. Connect through the foot, find the connection to the earth, slide the heel back, slide the hips forward, reach arms up. And then coming back into where we started. And then one more time, really feel that connection to the earth through the left foot. Slide the foot back as the hips move forward, arms reach up. This time, interlace your fingers, one finger over from the last time. Turn the palms up toward the ceiling. Feeling the length. Take a couple of breaths. And then start to move from side to side. Keep the connection through the feet. That's the stability here. Keep the breath full. And coming back up to center, release the hands down to the blocks or your props. Bring them with you as you slide your hips over your right knee this time, or your right heel. And then the left heel connects to the earth as the toes point up. Now I still have a bend in my knee here. And then shift that femur bone or the thigh bone into the hips. The left hip shifts back slightly. Keep the toes flexed and match your breath to the sensation. Notice where you're putting up walls to avoid this pose. Allow the exhale to soften the entire body. Filling up with breath. Softening through the breath. Each breath has this strength and softening aspect to it. The inhale is the strength part, finding that openness and expansion, and the exhale is that softening. Sliding the blocks forward, bringing a bend back into that left knee, and bringing the left knee back to meet the right. Now you can come back down to your hands and your knees for just a moment. And with your inhale, stretch your right arm out in front of you and your left leg back behind you for a spinal balance. So from the spinal balance, we are extending from the sides of our body. Keep pressing down through the right knee and the left hand to find a little bit of buoyancy here. And then at the same time, both arms and legs are hugging in toward one another. So really finding the strength in this pose. Find more length here with every inhale, reaching a little bit further in front of you and behind you. Taking one more deep breath here, and then listen carefully. Keep that left leg lifted. Bring your right hand down to the earth. Kickstand your right leg off to the side of your mat. Flex through the left toes and begin to transfer the weight onto the right hand so you can lift the left hand up toward the ceiling. So your gaze can look up toward the ceiling, it can look straight ahead, or it could look down to the earth. Soften through the right shoulder. We don't need the right shoulder all the way up to our ear here. And if this is too much for you with the leg lifted, please feel free to bring the side or the edge of your left foot down to the earth. Wherever you are in this pose, we want to keep the lifting up through the right hip. So that's what's strengthening through the obliques. So keep lifting up through that right hip as best as you can. And you can keep your left arm lifted toward the ceiling, or it can reach overhead for even more of a side body stretch. Keep a small micro bend in that right elbow. Keep pressing the earth away from you and breathing into this left side of the body. Take one more big breath here and exhale to unwind, coming all the way back down to the earth. Take your hips over to the right side, as deep as you would like it. So I'm up on both hands, but you could also always take your elbow or your forearm down to get even a deeper stretch on the outside of the hip. Coming back up to center, we are going to move to the other side. So this time, with your inhale, lift the left arm out in front of you and your right leg back behind you. Again, feeling like you're playing tug of war with your body. One side is reaching forward and the bottom half of you is reaching back. Keep hugging into this center line. Keep pressing down through the right hand and the left knee. Reaching and extending from the center of your body, from baby, rather than from your elbow, your wrist, or your knee. Take one more big breath here. And then again, keep that leg lifted. Bring the left hand down to the earth. Kickstand the left leg off of your mat. And start to move into Vashisthasana on the other side, or side plank. So to start, we're leaving the hand lifted, reaching up toward the ceiling. Keep lifting up through that left hip. We want to think about stacking the right hip on top of the left hip. And keep the foot flexed. And then if you would like, reaching the hand overhead. Keep the foot flexed and keep breathing into the outside of the right side of the body. Taking one more big breath here. The breath is the movement of this pose. And exhale to unwind, coming all the way back down to the earth. This time, take your hips over to the left side. Take a few breaths here. You can move or rock forward and backward to really get into that hip. Again, you have the option of coming to your forearm to get a little bit deeper. And then coming back up to center and sitting, crossing your legs behind you and sitting down, bringing legs off to either side and eventually coming with your feet out in front of you. Keep your right foot out in front of you. You can make your seat so you're on your sit bones rather than your tailbone. And then bring the left knee, bending it up so that the foot comes right to the inside of the right thigh. The right foot is flexed. Now, wrap your left hand around the left knee and bring the right hand behind you. Kind of squeeze the right shoulder blade against the spine and use that right hand to press you up with a longer spine. Now keep the left leg hugging in. That arm can also help with that. And then we are going to twist from our mid-back, twisting toward the right side of the room. So an open twist, making space for baby. Now, as we make space for baby here, we're still keeping baby pointed toward the front of the room and twisting more from the mid to upper back and into the shoulders. Your gaze can settle wherever it is comfortable. If you want to take a little bit deeper of a twist, you can take your gaze all the way over your right shoulder. Take 2 breaths here. With every inhale, think about finding more length through the spine. And with every exhale, taking that twist just a little bit deeper. And then unwinding, keeping the length of the spine. And starting to bring that left leg forward. Maybe shake the legs out. And we'll move to the other side. So this time, letting the left leg stretch out, bringing the right foot to the inside of the thigh, hugging that knee in. We'll grab the right knee with our right hand, Keeping a long spine even to start. The left foot is flexed, so the toes are pointing up toward the ceiling, maybe even a little bit behind you or toward you. And then take the hand behind you, and I'm gonna just turn a little bit so you can see this. Left hand is behind you, pressing into the earth through that left hand, anchoring yourself with that hand. A slight squeeze of the shoulder blade against the spine to feel a little bit more open through the shoulders. And then with your next exhale, begin to twist, an open twist toward the left side of the room. Again, baby is staying facing forward. The twist is coming from the mid-back, upper back, shoulders. You can keep looking straight to the side, or you can take your gaze over the left shoulder. Find length with every inhale, and with every exhale, you're moving toward that space that you're creating with the in-breath. Find length, press into the earth with the in-breath and exhale to unwind, coming back to center. So both feet come to the earth. Maybe take the windshield wiper again, moving from side to side. Take 2 visits to each side. And then we'll do 2 visits using that other, or taking less movement out of the whole body and just moving through the legs. So it's almost like you're pressing, for me right now on this side, pressing the left knee forward and coming back. And then the right knee moves more forward, really getting deep into those hip sockets. Take 1 more visit on each side. Notice where your mind is going, or your breath, if your breath has begun to dissipate as following your mind. Maybe you're thinking about what's coming next today or what's on your to-do list. And bring it back, reconnect with the breath. So from here, we're gonna take a double pigeon, or what is also called a fire logs pose. So let's start with our left foot forward. So the left shin is gonna come parallel to the top of the mat, and it's really important to keep the left toes or the left foot flexed. That'll just protect the knee. And then just as if it were a baby, cradle the right leg, holding the knee and the foot, and start to rock either back and forth or side to side, maybe making some circles. And then we're gonna stack the right ankle on top of the left knee, and on the right knee on top of the left ankle. So I like to move my seat, physically move my seat with using my hands. So press your hands into the earth, kind of make it so that your shins are stacked on top of one another. What we don't want is to sickle that foot so it falls inside of the knee, and then the shins are more parallel than they are stacked on top of one another. So thinking of just like the name fire logs is to keep those shins stacked. Now you can see here that I have a lot of space on my right side between the knee and the ankle. So if you are in the same boat, you can take a prop and stick it in that space just to give yourself a little support there. And I like to take my arm and rest it on the right knee or right thigh just to give a little bit more opening. And I invite you to close your eyes here. We'll be here for about 5 to 8 breaths. It's a deep hip stretch, giving you the opportunity to really focus on your breath and your body. So notice where you might be holding the tension of this pose. And rather than holding tension in the body, we want to deepen the breath. Allow yourself, rather than trying to push against the sensation, is to embrace the sensation, lean into the sensation. So one way to do that is to deepen the exhale. So if you're counting in breath for a count of 4 or 3 or 4, the out breath is going to be a count of 5 or 6. And that's a really good breath for the second stage of labor. Relax your jaw, your forehead. Take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth. Relax through your shoulders. Take 3 more breaths here. And before completely unwinding from this pose, can you scrunch your face up? Like really purse your lips and clench your jaw and move through your forehead. And then release it so that you can feel that softening of the face. So maybe take that one more time. It's like taking that, really scrunching up the face and feeling that tension and clenching your jaw, and then allowing the whole face to soften. And then if you have a prop, you can remove that from that space and gently, again, just as if it were your baby, picking up that top leg and moving the knee out, making some circles, getting any extra stickiness out of the hip. One thing that I really like to do is to use this right elbow as almost a tripod and bringing it down to the earth, and then moving around so that you're almost massaging out, using the earth to help massage out the hip. Find your breath. And then coming back to center. And we'll switch legs. So this time as we set up, the right shin is going to move forward, making it parallel with the top of the mat. Really important, we flex through the right foot. Also flexing through the left foot, pick up that left leg and start to move it from side to side, up and down, circles, whatever feels best for you. And then stack the left ankle on the right knee and the left knee on the right ankle. Again, find yourself so that those shins are stacked, not sickled, not parallel or in one inside the other. They are stacked on top of one another. Both feet are flexed. And on this side, you may have space, you might not. It might be different, it might feel better, it might feel more sensation. All of that is fine. There's no judgment here. So be gentle with yourself and pay attention to those thoughts are going in. It's not good or bad or right or wrong. We all have a side that we favor. So if you would like to slide a block or whatever prop into that space, please be my guest. And again, I invite you to close your eyes here, really noticing what is going on in the body as these poses get a little bit more intense. Really deepen the breath, focusing on that inhale, following it from the very beginning, and continuing to follow it until the very end of the exhale. Take the tongue off of the roof of your mouth, soften through the jaw. Match the sensation with your breath. Can you stay here in this moment, in this pose, for 2 more breaths? And as you feel balanced on both sides, and if you just got to a really amazing place here and you want to continue to stay here, please be my guest. But if you are ready to move out of this pose, you can remove the block. You can pick up that top leg just as if it were a baby, beginning to move forward and backward, moving from side to side. You can also take that tripod massage into the hip. And then coming back up to center and shaking the legs out. Maybe moving in an outer and inner spiral. So taking the legs out to the side and then taking the legs in toward each other. Doing that one more time, just kind of working the outsides of the hips and the legs. And then bring both soles of the feet together in front of you. We want to make sure that our spine is long, so come up so that the pubic bone is tilted forward rather than sitting back onto your tailbone and rounding through the bottom half of your spine. So moving forward, and the elbows can come to the inner thighs, and you can bow forward any amount if you choose, getting a little bit deeper stretch here. Try to stay with your breath. I know some of you may not have seen your toes in a while, but just allowing your body and your mind to settle on the breath rather than allowing these thoughts or anything to pull you out of your practice in the body. Take one more deep breath here. And then coming back up to center. And we'll start to set up for our final resting pose. So you have a couple of options. If you have props that can support you in a reclined position, in class we are using the blocks and a bolster. So you can take the block to the back block on its highest setting and the block right in front of it on its middle setting. And then you can slide the bolster over the tops of the blocks. And your hips come to the edge of the bolster and slowly recline over that. You can also take it on your left side using any props in between the knees and the ankles for alignment purposes. Or if you are still comfortable on your back, you can also take it on your back. So just making your way into this final pose of class, the class that we have worked all of practice for. And allowing the focus to come off of the breath, allowing that breath that we've worked really hard to take off of autopilot to just become more faint and more soft. And in this final resting pose, I want you to think of a point of your body of focus. So maybe that's the middle of your hand. Maybe that is your heartbeat. Maybe it's the very tip of your nose where you can feel the breath moving in and out. And taking this time to settle into this stillness, feeling the body being held and supported by the earth, possibly noticing the difference in the body and the mind and the breath from the very beginning of practice till now. Feeling the weight of the bones, feeling the softness of the tissue that surrounds them and holds them. And allowing the body to be in this surrender to the moment. Shavasana. Start to take a deep breath into your body, reawakening everything. Feeling that expansion and contraction. Start to wiggle fingers, toes, rolling through your wrists and your ankles. And as you're ready, if you're not already there, begin to make your way onto the left side of your body. In this nurturing or fetal position, take a couple of deep breaths. As you are ready, begin to press yourself up with the strength of your arms, coming back to a seat where we started practice with. Bringing either one hand or both hands to your heart. Take a few deep breaths in, connected here. Maybe feeling your heart beat and pump. Feeling your breath move through you, not only nourishing you, but nourishing your baby. You can take a moment here to connect with him or her, maybe bringing one hand to your belly, sending a thought, a wish, something from your day. Breathing together. Not only physically breathing here with your baby, but breathing with all of us who are connected through this practice. And then as you're ready, both hands come together at your own heart center and bow your head to acknowledge yourself and your practice today, for showing up on your mat, for giving time for you, for giving gratitude for any of those people who are supporting you by giving you this time. Thank you so much for letting me guide you through your practice today. I hope you have a great rest of your day and your week ahead. The light in me honors and recognizes the light, strength, beauty, grace, and mother in each and every one of you. Namaste. Thank you so much for tuning in. I wish we could all do this and see each other in person. But if you wouldn't mind leaving a comment here on the video, I would love to hear anything that you have to say or share or questions. And also feel free to donate by Venmo to 21st Yoga. That's all spelled out. So 21st Yoga, all one word. Or by PayPal, or by tapping the link in the description. So you can check out other videos that I have done for prenatal on the 21st YouTube page, or lots of other amazing classes by all of our instructors here at 21st Yoga. There are also many videos to choose from on the Facebook page as well, and I hope you'll follow us on Instagram at 21st _yoga. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye, everyone.